Hello and welcome to the mini lesson on calculating percentages. So we are going to be looking at finding percentages, and it will definitely be helpful for you if you have a calculator, and definitely use the one on your computer if you don't have one that's readily accessible. And you're also going to need paper and pencil as usual. This is going to be a fairly easy lesson, but it is important that you understand why we're doing what we're doing. So here we have a fraction that says 32 out of 50. So one way that we can find the percentage of this is to make it out of 100. That's pretty simple with a denominator of 50. We would just make it a denominator of 100. In order to do that, we multiply by 2. We multiply this number by 2. So actually pause your video and calculate what the numerator is going to be. 32 times 2 is 64, so it's going to be 64 out of 100. Well, that's a pretty simple percentage, 64%. All right, so here are 3 more that are going to be pretty easy for you to be able to make them fractions out of 100. So it's easy to get from 10 to 100, it's easy to get from 25 to 100, and it's easy to get from 20 to 100. So you're going to pause your video and find equivalent fractions that are out of 100, and then you'll be able to find your percentage easily. So pause your video and do that now. For 6/10, you would multiply both the numerator and denominator by 10, and you would get 60 over 100, which then leads to 60%. For 3 out of 25, the way I figured out how many 25s there are in 100 is thinking about quarters. And I know that a quarter is 25 cents, and there's 4 quarters in a dollar. So 25 times 4 is 100, and 3 times 4 is 12. So 12 out of 100, that then gives me the percent of 12%. Down here, I did 20 times 5 and 17 times 5, because I know there's 5 20s in 100, and I got 85 out of 100. So my percentage is 85%. Basically what these percentages are saying is, so let's say somebody tried to kick a soccer ball 10 times, and they got it into the goal 6 times. So it's saying that if they were to try 100 times, they would be able to get it in 60 times. If somebody tried to kick a soccer ball in 25 times and they got it in 3 times into the goal 3 of those times, that's saying that if they were to kick it 100 times, 12 of them would get into the goal. So it's finding, and percentages are a good way for us to be able to compare numbers that have a different whole, but now I can compare these and say, okay, so let's say Tommy kicked the ball 10 times and got it in 6 times. Elisa kicked the ball 25 times and got it in 3 times, and Jack kicked it 20 times and got it in 17 times. So who is better at soccer? Who gets the ball in the most? Well, we can't compare these because they're all out of a different number. So just because 17 is the largest number doesn't mean that it's going to be the largest percent, although in this case it is. So it would be that Jack is the best at soccer because if he were to do it 100 times, he would be able to get it in 85 times versus 60 versus 12. Not all fractions are easily converted into percentages though, and the reason for that is because not all numbers go evenly into 100. The ones we just did, all those numbers went easily into 100 and evenly, but the denominator of 9 does not go evenly into 100. So therefore, we aren't going to be able to find an equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator. But what we can do is we can divide the numerator and the denominator. So we can say 4 divided by 9, and that's going to give us a decimal. So this decimal is 0.444, we'll just say. I'm not going to round up, so I'm actually going to get rid of that 4 because it's not large enough to round up. So I have 0.44 or 45 hundredths. We know how to make a decimal into a percentage easily. So instead of going the route of making the 9 a denominator of 100 and converting a fraction to a percent, I am actually turning my fraction, which is less than a whole, into a decimal by dividing, and then dividing the numerator by the denominator, and then I can easily say 44%. So let's see if that works with these ones that were easy for us to figure out. Let's just double check and make sure it actually works. So we'll start with 6/10. If I divide 6 divided by 10 equals 0.6. So you should be following along on your calculator, 0.6. And so that's a 6/100. That's 6 out of 100, or 60 out of 100. So that says 6/10, or it can say 60/100. So 60 out of 100, and that's the same as our percent. Let's see about 3/25. So 3 divided by 25. So 3 divided by 25 equals 0.12. I can either say 12/100, and I'll easily know that our percent is going to be 12% for 12 out of 100, or I can move my decimal over twice, and that gives me 12%. Last one is 17/20, so 17 divided by 20 equals 0.85. 85/100 is the same as 85%. So that works. We know our method works. Here are 3 more. You're going to use your calculator to solve what the percentage is for each of these fractions. Pause your video and do that now. You should have gotten 1%, 92%, and 35%. Hopefully, as long as you use your calculator, you definitely should have gotten those answers. And here's a word problem. Dana is about to take her spelling test. Her goal this week is to get at least an 85% on the test. There are 20 words. What is the least number of words that Dana must spell correctly to get at least an 85%? So she wants an 85%, and she needs to know what fraction of those 20 words she has to get correct. Pause your video and try and figure that out now. She's going to have to get at least 17 words correct, and I figured that out by a little bit of guess and checking. And the reason I did that is because I knew that it was going to be pretty close to 100%. So I knew it was going to be close to 20 words. So I went down from there. I said 19 divided by 20, 95%. Nope. She can actually do fewer words. 18 divided by 20 equals 90%. Nope, she can go even lower. 17 divided by 20 equals 85%. That's the lowest she's willing to go. So I know that she has to get at least 17 right. If I put in 16 out of 20 into the calculator, then I know that I would get a fraction that would be less than 85%. Here's another word problem. Antonio invites a large group of 18 friends to go to an amusement park with him. In order to get a discount on the tickets, at least 9 of them have to come. What percentage of Antonio's friends must accept the invitation? Pause your video and solve that now. There are actually 2 different ways that you could have gone about this. We know that 9 out of 18 have to accept the invitation. So the first thing I thought was that, wow, 9 divided by 9, I can also do 18 divided by 9. So let's make a reduced fraction. So 9/18 reduces to 1/2. Now, because I've been using percentages for a long time, I know that 1/2 is 50%, because that's half of the way to 100. So 50 out of 100 is the same as 1/2. However, I also could have used my calculator and said 9 divided by 18 equals 0.5 or 5/10, 50/100, 50%. Great work working on calculating percentages. That will definitely help you in other areas of life for sure, and you'll be able to calculate percentages pretty easily, especially if you have a calculator. So you don't have a thinking question for this lesson, and if you remember the thinking question from lesson 9, just regular lesson 9, it was asking you to think about why percentages are so important, and this hopefully will actually help you to answer that question. Goodbye.